engine.
Kantaka engine, Kataka engine oye ankaye. Say who say Kantaka to me cars in Cassia anyway. Say I did not to me so to me Kankasia. And there not say on ye sa cars in Kitty Namukromi, Matis in Musa type no, but why you be brea at least new passing super wall. Until Obito be cry no if you're passing now. Ebe is a mano, no what to call. Na debia o ye can't see, no so in your ban support, in your ban support. Is a ban song say, put me ye carcassy, ye wunda that's out to be a carcassy. And Jessiano, ye per se, Sanka Cantanka and Oyano. 1 year cats and getting be. Oh, town running cars, taxi, no man for bet me. And spare pass and be say ya. Met man ye be a talk. I want to ho. Spare pass in soon a masca. Ebaka enya car no be na ebeto no ba spare parts na maka wo ya car spare parts no monyo ska enti so to me ya cars na man for to na man for yusu na baby say ya nya fe na ebekọ abrochi akokra ukọ contact
the case kan ne ma no man nkọ fom aye o ma case kan nkọ fom se petrol no so ha o ma petrol no so nkọ fom na driver for so ma ne ma nkọ fom na case kan ne ma no so emunyam mre ne nton aye so ya to na maye.
My expectation from the government is that it should do the tax rate, because when you go to the other foreign country to buy the goods they are very cheap. But when you bring it here, you can't sell it because of the tax rate and the duty too. The income tax, for instance, and then the duty taxes. You should reduce it for us, and it will help us.
The yield levy tax is affecting traders. You know what? The reason is that if I supply goods to somebody and the person has to send me the money through mobile money, the yield levy, because of the yield levy, much of my money or most of my money will be reduced through the yield levy. So we will be expecting him to abolish the yield levy as he promised.
Your case can in your man nkọ fom aye o ma case kan nkọ fom se petrol no so ha o ma petrol no so nkọ fom na driver for so ma ne man nkọ fom na case
very high. We just want improved living conditions, but low cost of living. Let's talk about the projected revenue loss from taxes to be abolished by the NDC government. We're looking at some 7.6 billion cedis annually. And that is broken down as this. The betting tax, if it is cancelled, it means by the end of the year, we're losing some 1.2 billion cedis as a result. Before we talk about the e-levy, that one, we're looking at some 2.43 billion cedis. And COVID-19 levy, 3.965 billion cedis. If we put all of this together, some 7.6 billion cedis will be lost from taxes to be abolished. That is, if they are abolished by the NDC government. We'll get to know at the end of the budget presentation by the finance minister. But let's speak with Julius Jima. He's an economist and a tax policy analyst joining us right now. Julius, thank you so much for joining us on the program. A big day for the finance minister today. A lot of promises the NDC made to win the 2024 elections. The reality too is that the economy is not at a good place. My question is, how do we marry the expectations that the citizens have of the finance minister in terms of the freebies that have been promised and the need for revenue, the need for government to generate revenue to fulfill these promises, Julius?
Good morning, Noble. Thank you so much for having me. But glad that Ghanaians are really expecting so many tax cuts. I mean, I was listening to your interviews and you realized that most Ghanaians are looking out for some of these taxes to go off, as you have indicated earlier on. That means that all those monies are going to be lost, and it's going to be having some impact on our fiscal space. We know that for economic policy and the fiscal policy to thrive. It means that government should be able to be generating more money from the system, what we refer to as the domestic revenue mobilization. For even us to continue with our economic development and infrastructure development for the country, it's all about your revenue, tax revenue. Global outlook, geopolitics of the current world even suggests that countries are withdrawing. I mean, you could see that U.S. is withdrawing their funds from U.S. aid. Again, U.S. is even withdrawing their support for Ukraine. So that should tell us that now countries are beginning to focus more within and looking at how they can protect their interest in the country. For us in Ghana, is it the same? If it is, then if what our people are telling us is that government should be able to give us more freebies, and that has been the reason why some of these taxes are, one of the expectations that, people are looking out for the finance minister to take off. But like you rightly said, in the NDC manifesto, that is what they campaigned for, and, it actually sank well with the ordinary Ghanaians. And in the same vein, it means that for the past 2 years ago, our economy was contracting. So citizenry, the tax-paying community also were tax fatigued. It means that people do not want to hear any news about taxes because the economy was really not, where it was today. COVID, Russia, Ukraine were existing, government conditions like a budget expenditure and an excess deficit has really have a toll on our economy. So, people were not really making more savings and investments enough. And when that happens and you want to still bring in taxes or increase taxes, you have some form of problem with your people. And that's what happened over the years. So in fiscal policy, when you are looking at the economy is contracting, you don't tax. It's rather when the economy is expanding, which is an expansionary measure, that is where you introduce some form of taxes or increase some of taxes. So it stands in line that at the time when the finance minister or probably the NDC were making or drafting their manifesto, the reflection on the ground will mean that we are supposed to, take some of these taxes off so that it will ease the burden on the people. But fast forward, to a year ago, 2 years ahead now, where we are currently, we have seen some improvement in the GDP of the economy. And then, life has begun to see some form of improvement. Is it the case that we have to take off these taxes or we have to maintain them? But it's a situation between a political manifesto versus an economic policy. And just as we know, the expectations is that if government focus on honoring the political manifestos in line with what is happening on the ground, it means that all those taxes have to go off so that it will ease the burden on Ghanaians. That has been the advocacy. That has been the challenge for the ordinary people. And that will mean that it is going to be impacting on the total revenue and grant for the country or for government. And when that happens, that is why government also is even looking at the expenditure cut. It suggests that the government will be able to do so much this year because when the revenues are not coming, taxes, it takes time for the revenue to build up.
Right.
And so what it means this year is that we might not see some form of, development and then infrastructure projections that we are looking at because of how government will have to realign some of the policies and rationalize some of the policies to be able to sustain the expectations that are coming ahead of the ordinary person. It means that, yes, we are expecting, e-levy is impacting on our lives. COVID, for me, some years down the line, I've advocated for the fact that even the name do not, resonate with Ghanaians. There's no more COVID. Why do we still maintain COVID levy? If government will have to change it and bring in a new tax or probably amend the name in some form of regard, it's fine. But that maintaining COVID levy alone, let us remind the dark days of COVID. Who would want to keep this memory? Nobody would want to keep this memory. So all these taxes are impacting on especially the indirect taxes where COVID finds itself. It's really affecting consumer spending and all that. So when government takes off these taxes, we will all be happy. E-levy, you are making your transfers on your Momo digital platform. If you see the charge clearly, you'll have to cut it and then look for a merchant or a vendor somewhere and then go and do the transfer and then save the e-levy. So that even also impacted on the total contributions that e-levy would be given to government. So in all, will government go with a political manifesto promise and honor them or look at the real impact on the economy and see how the government is going to realign and sustain, the revenues that are coming in, and then focusing on some of the policy implementation and the programs that the government is really looking at. The government has a big one, 24-hour economy, which is about jobs for all, create support to small, medium enterprises. And that is the chapter 2 of the NEC manifesto. The big one also is Ghana First and the $10 billion infrastructure project. If government will be able to achieve all of these, then it means that we should see some form of improvement in the revenue. But what the minister has hinted, time from his vetting days to being swearing in, is about tax cuts and then also expenditure cuts, and then controlling the wastages in the system. And that is the real test for the finance minister today, to tell us the measures with which he's going to use to achieve all of these. Tax compliance has been one of the biggest challenge when it comes to our tax, practice and principles in the country. The issue is that our economy is largely controlled by the informal sector. And that is where the SMEs come into play. With the informal sector, most of their business operations and accounting processes are not formalized. So sometimes collecting taxes from them becomes very difficult. And looking at the heterogeneous nature of their businesses, some will go and take it from here, go and sell, make a margin. Some will also bring it, go and pay it back, go and take the items again, go back again. So it makes it really, really difficult to trace the sales level and then even account for VATs that are due, and then even withholding taxes or income taxes that are due on some of these business lines.
Right.
So tax compliance really, really has become an old age problem, and it's not only Ghana, across the world, and that's why people are even evading taxes and avoiding taxes. So it means that the minister should be innovative than what we have seen, and then give us those measures today as to how they are going to increase tax education, how they are going to firm up JRA, the tax administrator, to be able to, go into the business, go into the market, and then kind of raise the monies for the country. What I refer to the role of the Ghana Revenue Authority is that they should be really strategic business partner for the taxpayers or for businesses. Gone are the days where you go after taxpayers and then you are harassing them and then, forcing them. Some of them are very fine. They are colleagues. They are doing really, really well. But the issue here is that they should do more by, extending support services, business support services to these taxpayers so that they can build that friendly environment with which the taxpayer will be confident enough to open up their businesses and avoid either under invoicing or over invoicing that is leading to these tax laws that we have in the system. So I always say that finance minister has inherited a more dynamic, complicated, and a complex economy now, unlike some 10, 12 years ago. And that will mean that we should be thinking more outside the box, discipline ourselves, and know that the tax ahead, especially this year, is not going to be easy.
Dr. Julius Jimmy, I'd like for you to hold on for me as I bring into the conversation Dr. Abraham Kumsing. Here's the Secretary of the Ghana Federation of Labour. Doc, thank you so much for your time with us on the program. I'm sure Labour also has a lot of expectations of the Finance Minister, particularly coming on the back of the negotiation for base pay. Beyond the conversations about taxes, for Labour itself, what more would you want the Finance Minister to talk about? What amendments do you want him to make?
I think this government, they want power because of the 24-hour. The workers, both in employment and those unemployed, voted massively for this government because of the 24-hour economic policy. Because they know if this policy is implemented, there will be enough jobs for them to do. So they are expecting that the government will make sure that this policy materializes for job creation and all that. And, we've lost lots of workers over the period, and it's all because, the manufacturing industries have suffered a lot. over these taxes. If I list the number of taxes that these manufacturing industries are paying, you shiver, you panic. About 16 taxes. The latest taxes 2023 that they brought was an excise duty which was imposed on beverage, fruit drinks. The fruit drink calipo that the former president himself used to campaign, he was sucking it in his car. That time, this calipo cost 50 pesos. As we speak now, calipo is 5 cedis, some places 6 cedis. And the company is unable to sell the product because parents are not buying. How do I give you food? I give food to my children and buy calipo in addition. They don't have the means. Because of that, production has stalled. Not only that, there are other industries, textiles, and they are all suffering. Most of them have closed down. So this 24-hour thing, if really they are serious with it, is going to reactivate the industries. And so we are looking at the taxes, the over-taxes, the nuisance taxes, the obnoxious taxes that have industry. Otherwise, I can assure you that it's very, 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 very difficult to materialize. But it's good, it's nice to hear 24 hours. It's good. But the implementation is something that if we don't, then it will become like this 1D, 1F, very nice slogan, one district, one factory, one constituency, $1 million and all these things. We don't want to hear all these things. So our prayer is that, in fact, we've already written to the finance minister. We have engaged him one-on-one.
Right.
To raise issues about these taxes. So once they deal with it and the industry, survive. See, this economic forum that they held is good.
Right.
But we expect that they should engage the investors, because the investors have lost confidence in the system.
Right.
So once you engage them, then maybe you tell them, look, these taxes that were destroying your business, we are going to do this or that, so that you can remain in production.
Right. Dr. Kumsing, let me get back to Dr. Julius Jima. Julius, from where you sit as a public policy and economic analyst, talking about the issue of unemployment. In the NDC manifesto, there's what they call the Ejumewura program. It is to create and track as well as mentor at least 10,000 businesses annually. Also invest $3 billion in partnership with the private sector for job creation. There are also a couple more for the jobs and employment promises the NDC government made going into the 2024 elections that implement the 24-hour economy to boost productivity and jobs, establish the Women's Development Bank to support women-owned businesses, implement a national apprenticeship program. My question is, all these ideas that the NDC has in terms of job creation, the expectations, again, very high. Which of these will they be able to do for now, and which ones are we looking at coming in the medium to the long term? Which of these promises can be shelved so that we're not overburdened, or the government is not overburdened with, fulfilling a lot of promises with meager resources?
Absolutely, Noble. If you reference is made to the chapter 2 of the NEC manifesto, where they have a policy on jobs for all, and that is what you have really highlighted. In the jobs for all, that is where the 24-hour economy is, and that is where support to SMEs are also there. Now, all these national apprenticeship programs, the Women's Bank, and then the Jumera, all those policies will have to come as a result of the kind of revenue that will accrue to the consolidated fund so that the government can allocate them and then try to implement all these policies. It is just very common sense that not all these policies will come upstream this year. But at least, just as you rightly said, with the short term, I mean, government can really scale out the National Apprenticeship Program, which is very easy to do. This is just about building skills set for the unemployed youth. We have had issues with the kind of training that most of our youth receive from the university is not compatible with what is being done at industry level. So when they go into industry, it looks like business have to spend extra money to train them. So if government is trying to intercede or bridge that gap, it means that government is now looking for the opportunity to give this skill set to our youth, and that is really a step in the right direction. So that can be done or realized within the short-term measure that probably, I'm sure, today the minister would really give us the roadmap. The big one will be on 24-hour economy. 24-hour economy, we can assess it over the entire 4 years of the lifespan of President Mahama. I mean, I don't really foresee 24-hour economy coming this year, because President Mahama even indicated that there's a committee that is working on the roadmap. So that will really have to take time, and they really have to go into introspection, planning, policy alignment, and make sure that the implementation will be smooth. If not, Ghanaians will start talking. Just as Doc was saying that what we see or experience in one district, one factory. To be able to do or achieve 24-hour economy, that will take us to Chapter 3 of the NDC Manifesto, which is talking about Ghana First. In the Ghana First, it's talking about Ghana for industry, revitalization, support, and transformation. So I believe that the emphasis is on industry. If you're able to support industry, let more of them to come upstream. Industrialized has always been the hallmark of our economy that we are really talking about. We are looking at import substitution. In fact, some of our imports is costing really about close to $2 billion to be able to do import. Oil import alone is taking us about $450 million every month to be able to bring refined petroleum products into the country.
Right.
Non-oil, in terms of our foodstuff, our rice, our sugar, our cereals, the fruit juice that we see on most of these retailers, like most of them are not being produced in the country. I mean, Doc was talking about Calipo in recent times. What about Don Simon? What about Series? All these things are imported into the country. So we have to find some solution to that. In doing that, you have to put in place, companies or people to be able to solve these problems. Right. And that is how you create the industries. And in doing that, you are creating the demand. So when demand increases, and then we have to do something, and we should be deliberate about creating the demand, because we have the problems around us. And once we have the problems, it means that there is a solution, and that solution is the demand we are going to create. I mean, presidents have started a solution with regards to our poultry import.
Right.
And that will mean that it is going to solve that problem with regards to importation of poultry, because we consume it, and then the kind of import bill on our neck is too much. So why don't we support local farmers to bridge the gap? Same with rice. If you look at the metric tons of consumption that we consume as a year, when it gets to Christmas, rice import becomes, or even balloon. Sugar, we've not been able to address the problem with sugar production, yet we consume it every morning. We are taking sugar in our cocoa, we are taking sugar in our tea, and all kinds of breakfasts that we have, we need sugar. So these are the problems we have been confronting every day, and that is what we have to find a solution by creating the demand. Once we create the demand, then you need more people to work, you need more factory hands, you need more laborers, you need more engineers to put up the plants, and then gradually we are beginning to evolve and implement the 24-hour economy. And that means that you are getting more people to work around the clock. Very simple as that. So I believe that if you're able to align Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 of the NDC Manifesto, Jobs for All, and then Ghana First, then we begin to really harmonize these policies. The government can really do well when it comes to the implementation of the 24-hour economy. But for now, today, I believe the minister will tell us about the roadmap for the 24-hour economy and how they are going to use it to create the enabling jobs that we need to be able to reduce unemployment and then the unemployment rate in the country. And that would be nice so that we can get more people of our young people to work. I mean, a country that do not work, individuals that do not work, businesses that do not work, means that you are not economically viable. And when that happens, government will also not begin to grow because government can't collect the taxes because nobody is making an income in the country. So that is how the economy is really interconnected.
Julius, wrap up for me.
Okay, so in putting all the bits and pieces together, we know that what will be on the bucket for most of Ghanaians, or the basket for most of Ghanaians, is still on the tax cut, and then how government to be able to get us the alternative funding measure. We know we under IMF, we are getting support gradually by annual with whatever they are giving us. Again, we have a challenge with the energy sector, the IPPs. You know, Ghanaians, we don't like doom, so we don't like power outages. So we want the minister to address how we are going to raise more money, and then also the inefficiency in the energy sector, so that we can be getting more money and then be paying to the IPP. Because all these concepts of 24-hour economy, industrialization, and what have you, will have to drive on power generation. If we don't have it, we can't really achieve it. So we should fingers are crossed. The expectations are still there. We are all waiting, reluctant to be able to listen to the finance minister, what he has for us today.
Julius, if we're cutting down on taxes, and the thinking is that if government controls expenditure, we may be able to cushion ourselves quite to a certain extent. Will cutting expenditure alone be very significant in generating the amount of money we need? I mean, if we're looking beyond the taxes, if we're cutting expenditure, do we now have to also begin to look at the excess profits of the extractive companies, telcos and banks, for instance, what people call super profit or windfall tax?
Yeah, so cutting expenditure is relative. The issue here is that if you look at our expenditure pattern of government, it is really fixed and it is really tight. Compensation of public sector workers, interest payments, grants given to ministries, municipals, district assemblies, capital expenditure, consumption of goods and services, other earmark funds that the minister will have to do. So these areas, where would the minister cut? So it is really, really relative. But to understand the conversation, if we come to, let's say, consumption of goods and services, it has more to do with procurement issues. Because government consumes. So when government consumes, government have to buy. And if government have to buy, government have to order. And the order, you need to get back to your requisition. So government stores in particular, that is where the issues are. And I believe that the minister really spoke about it, that we have to pay more attention to our Public Financial Management Act. Because everything has been enshrined there, but lack of compliance, the Procurement Act that we have in the country, and then that has, contributed to the inefficiencies and the lack of value for money that we've been experiencing in our system. So I believe that the minister will come out with a measure that will be so tight on clamping down inefficiencies in the system. And that is where I would be so much happy if that is realized, because a lot of things are going through procurement, so sourcing issues, for the sake of convenience. People are giving or awarded contracts where I will not be able to detect or determine whether or not the people that are awarded contract, they qualify or not. But there is this, allegation going on, this perception that people are not getting, the right people are not getting the right job, the supplies that they do. Some of them is being overpriced and all that. Some of them don't even go to PPA for the right approval. So the minister will really have to do a lot in making sure that he puts in the needed internal controls that will follow through from his office to the Public Procurement Authority and to the respective government agencies that will want to do procurement. It means that stringent approval and control levels should be maintained. And some of them, to some extent, the minister will have that will be checking and controlling some of these expenditures. Donald Trump did it in the U.S. and is working by putting Elon Musk as the boss for DOGE, which is the Department of Government Efficiency. And they're going through all government contracts and government supplies that they are doing. And they are really unearthing so many things for the U.S. government. Are we prepared to have that, practice in a country where now government to begin to pay attention to what we are buying, what we get into government stores? And that is really, really important, so that we can follow the laws to the letter, implement all the relevant tax that is around it, and those that are being circumvented, we just get it and then it support government revenue. So I believe that the inefficiencies in the system are being talked up, but there are or always will be solutions to be able to stop these revenue leakages, inefficiencies in our procurement, and then save some money for the government. And in the savings, we should be able to quantify them so that the public will know that, yes, we put this control here as a stop measure. This is the money that we realized, this particular contract, it was this. But when we went into the technicalities and the quantities of the materials that we are even going to use to do this contract A or contract B, we were able to save this X amount of money so that the minister will be reporting in the mid-year reviews and even the annual budget. It will bring, the confidence and forestall the kind of trust that we need in the public service. And when that happens, you see that the general public will start responding to supporting government activities by way of taxes. And government gets the money and implements most of the programs that they are looking out for.
Julius, thank you so much for your time with us on the program. I've been speaking with Dr. Julius Jima. He's an urban economist and the Executive Director for Center for Public Policy and Economic Analysis. I'll take your final words. I'll take that from Dr. Abraham Kumsing, the Secretary of the Ghana Federation of Labour. Dr. Kumsing, if you're still on the lines with me, we all have fair expectations of the finance minister and the NDC government, particularly for those of you in the various unions, based on the position you find yourself in now. You're hoping that government expenditure will reduce drastically so that it does not look as if they are enjoying and Labour is suffering. How far or how much do you want to see this go?
About the government expenditure.
Exactly.
Once the government has started, I think they are doing very well, especially reducing the number of ministers from 180 something to 60. Then even the recent celebration of the Independence Day, the cost of celebration used to be 15 to 20 million. This time around, we were told 1.5 million. And there are other costs that they have undertaken to ensure that it's done. That is good. It's a good sign. But if you look at the taxes, as I said earlier, because with tax, we know that the government will depend on taxes to be able to, to develop. But if the taxes are too many, and I've been saying that if you buy a vehicle with a capacity of, let's say, 10 tons, and you load it with 20 or 30 tons of goods,
right?
What will happen? The vehicle will certainly break down. So instead of over burdening the manufacturing industry with these taxes, if you rather expand the tax net, you see, if you expand into the informal economy and all that, and make sure that people pay taxes. But if you want money, so you are taxing. If you tax them too much, the companies will collapse.
Right.
If they collapse, nothing will come again. Because the more the industries, you help them to grow, expand, and employ, then the workers will continue paying taxes to the state. That's it. So let's hope that the finance minister, because we have engaged him severally, and we think that whatever we discuss will certainly manifest in whatever he's going to,
Dr. Kumsing, thank you. Thank you so much for your time with us on the program.
Living like a poor man, I say, it not be easy.
And that was Dr. Abraham Kumsing. He's the Secretary of the Ghana Federation of Labour. But earlier was Dr. Julius Jima, an urban economist and the executive director of the Center for Public Policy and Economic Analysis.
Living like a poor man, it's not easy, especially if you don't have money to spend. Living like a poor man, it's not easy, especially if you don't have money at all. Living like a poor man, it's not easy for this world. Hey. If you don't get the money, what till you go do? Tell me, what till you go say? When the kids are crying, yeah, landlord to the wait. Wahala there for work side. The woman to the trouble.
Well, from the economy, the health sector has also is also expecting a lot of changes. From the NDC's Youth Manifesto, for instance, the party said they will establish mental health care hotlines under the NHI's framework for access to mental health care and e-counseling at the district level. They would also encourage public universities to establish departments for innovation in herbal medicine. The NEC too say they will implement free primary health care services, and that will be at the basic level, as well as introduce risk exposure insurance for health workers to provide financial protection in case of work-related injuries or illness. The NDC will promote the Food for Health initiative to highlight the health and nutritional benefits of indigenous Ghanaian foods. Set up market and transport station clinics to provide basic healthcare services. Upgrade school sick bays to satellite clinics managed by health professionals in boarding schools. The NDC will also facilitate the documented migration of healthcare workers and regulate the impact of brain drain on the healthcare system. The party would also want to reintroduce vehicle tax waivers for health professionals, as well as implement performance-based awards to motivate healthcare workers to promote quality healthcare. A 5-year work abroad program as an incentive for healthcare workers who accept postings to rural communities. The NDC will introduce specialist nursing programs in colleges of nursing to support career advancement and skills upgrades. The questions on the minds of many, party will be able to do this.
Stop your lying, hey, hey, hey.
Let's speak with Dr. Titus Bayo. He's a former General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. Currently, is the Member of Parliament for Lambusi. Dr. Bayo, thank you for your time with us on the program. Good morning to you. A lot of promises by the NDC. Well, as we wait for the Finance Minister to present the 2025 economic statement, how will the NDC government fund all the promises it has made in the health sector?
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners. And thank you for having me. I would first say that the good people of Ghana have given us a 4-year mandate beginning from the 7th of January this year. And so definitely we can't put everything in one budget, but the budget will point a direction in which we hope to go. So I've listened carefully to your listing of all the things we have always, but it is not expected that we can do all of that in just a year. So I expect that overall we'll be inching closer to the Abuja declaration, where we hope to ensure that total expenditure on health is inching towards that 15%. I am hoping that one of the cardinal sins committed against this country and the people's health by the previous administration, which was the capping of the NHIL, will be undone. There will be uncapping of that fund so that money will be available to the health insurance and for its core principle of providing health care to the people. I'll be happy to see something being pointed in the direction of the Ghana Medical Care Trust Fund, as the Mahama Care, and the free primary health care, because that is one of the major drivers towards attainment of universal health coverage, where someone in my village in Kocha or Sentu or any of the villages in Lambise this morning, if the person doesn't have an NHIS card, they cannot visit the health facility, even the chief's compound or the health center in their location. So it is my hope that some policy direction will be given in this area so that people can walk to their facility for their headache, for their malaria, irrespective of their NHIS status, to access healthcare. That is the free primary healthcare at that level. I think these will be what I am looking forward to in the first year.
Doc, the previous administration also made a few promises or made some initiatives. They began a few initiatives. The drone service, for instance. Are these areas that are likely to be touched by the NDC going forward? Should we expect anything like that in the budget statement?
Well, you know, the issue of the drone service, it was a national deception.
True.
And the whole nation was deceived because at the inception of this drone service, we were assured that no public purse will be used, no money from the public purse will be used to finance this activity. The corporate organizations were going to be involved, donations and other things. And as we have seen now, it has been funded directly from the public purse, which is not in sync with what the original concept was. So I am aware that the Minister of Health is reviewing critically the type of contract signed, why it has to be a take or pay, whether they fly or not, payment has to still be made. All that needs to be reviewed to make sure that we are giving value for money. The drone service, as useful as it is, has been abused in a lot of ways, as if our medical supply chain is no longer important. How can drones be flying things like paracetamol and other basic medications, which you should get through the medical supply and procurement system? That abuses the system. And so before we will commit any money to it, I expect a thorough review of that. The other ones, like Agenda 111, their implementation has been fraught with challenges. Huge debts have been left behind. And again, I know the minister is touring the facilities to get first-hand information and then to plan. He's been charged by His Excellency to come up with a definitive plan on these ones. And they may involve PPP arrangement, not all from the public purse.
On healthcare worker incentives, the NDC is promising offering rural allowances as well as scholarships for advanced studies and risk exposure insurance for healthcare workers to increase or improve healthcare infrastructure, building specialist hospitals and refurbishing major teaching hospitals like Kolebu. What arrangements will the NDC put in place to ensure that these things are done? How will they do it?
All right, so I can start with the health workforce. Because I have been a union leader myself and one very committed to the welfare of the Ghanaian health worker. And I know that our government is equally committed to it. It is the reason why the proposal of the risk exposure allowance comes in. Comes in. And the purpose is to make sure that some kind of package is put in place so that when people fall ill in the line of duty, it will not be GoFundMe or social media running from place to place to take care of themselves. Somebody must care for the health of the healthcare worker. So it is something that is on the drawing table. I know we are committed to it. I cannot tell if there is
we are going to see its expression in this budget. But within the 4-year period, it's something we are committed to. I also know that the vehicle tax waiver is something that the party is committed to. The minister is looking at how to streamline it well so that it is not abused. Now, when you come to the scholarships, we are thinking of it as one of the things that can motivate people to accept posting to rural areas. And it's part of a package. It's not a standalone. Also, it will be targeted to also improve the quality of care in the country. So we have a long-term agenda of migrating the nursing training schools to be degree awarding. That means that their tutors must be upgraded. So there's some thought of getting their tutors PhD scholarships to study and be able to come back and help in this migration process to make sure the quality of nurses we produce in this country is top-notch. But as I said, we have a 4-year mandate to execute all of this, and we expect the people of Ghana to be patient with the party as we seek to take them one by one. So for this first budget, I expect that we should look at the direction more than what it actually entails. Which direction is it pointing at? That's what we should be looking at.
Dr. Titus Bayu, thank you so much for your time with us on the program.
Most welcome. Most welcome.
And Dr. Titus Bayu is a former General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association and Member of Parliament for Lambwisi. We'll take you to Parliament shortly, where the Finance Minister, Dr. Atufo, is expected to present the mid-year budget. Stay with us here on 3FM and all our media general platforms. When the Finance Minister comes to Parliament, you'll be the first to know. We'll also be touching base with our correspondents in various parts of the country on what the regions are also expecting of the Finance Minister.
Oh,